Low, slow, but on the go. This week has been something different. My body's kind of working against me. I don't know if you can hear that. My throat is not kind of my friend, but there's a bigger concern that I have. But we're not going to get into that. Just know that the energy is going to be very not what it normally is. Okay. We're still going to keep on the same energy of us doing the UAC to open the episode. So this week, our UAC goes like this. Imagine a time when you didn't doubt yourself, where your expectations weren't met with a term as confusing as an acceptable loss. Your fears and failures are less connected to your character than you realize. The sooner you realize your character isn't something tickled or touched by anyone, it leaves limited room for misinterpretation, and if it does, it isn't character, it's ego. There is purpose behind your character, whether malicious or well intended. Your doubt is failed outcomes, your fears, expected outcomes, and your failures, those are your attempts with your limited understanding. You've forgiven others for a lot worse. I think you can forgive yourself for not getting it perfect. Okay? So, again, we leave it as is. You do with it what you want to. The UAC is just a piece of what it is that's going on in my head. Um, I'm going to get a little bit better at doing this, but I do want to say thank you to everybody that has subscribed already. We are almost at the 1,000 mark. We have broken the 700 mark. It's a little bit weird considering this is, I think, the 12th straight week that I've dropped a video on a Monday. It's been quite an interesting journey. It's been a little bit difficult, this week being one of the hardest ones that I've kind of had to put together. But as of the last three videos, we've been trying this unscripted thing, right? And this unscripted thing leads to you getting a little bit of what it is that's happening in my head, whether it's polished, unpolished, raw, real, relevant, those types of things, right? So in this week, I've kind of had a little bit of a need for others. And instead of this taking me in that direction, it's kind of flipped itself on its head and kind of pushed me to more towards understanding or focusing rather on self reliance. And I've seen a couple of things on social media about self reliance. But one of the things that stood out to me was there was this little animated clip. And in the animated clip, there was a moment where this person was expressing that they don't understand the whole theory of why a lone wolf is such a negative connotation when their understanding was that the minute there was a lone wolf, this wolf was leaving the pack in order for them to find a mate so that they could start a new pack. And that kind of little mentality shift is something that I focused on because of the fact that it basically means that we all stopped somewhere in the middle of that story. And when we heard the lone wolf story, we assigned that loneliness to that poor wolf for the rest of its life and took away every other decision that it could make. So I think I'm learning within this new questions or these newfound things that I'm thinking about in terms of the self-reliance concept is that it's actually very difficult to be self-reliant. Not because of the fact that you are always there for yourself and stuff like that. It's just there will come a point in your life where the thing that you need are skills that you do not have, perspectives that you do not consider, and life experience that you might not ever have. And that can be a very, very difficult thing to sometimes comprehend in the moment, especially if the emotional regulation is out of the door and you can't understand certain things. I've kind of had a little bit of a darker set of thinking over the course of the last couple of days. And I think for a lot of people it makes sense that it happened, but we tend to keep quiet about it. I think the difficulty within that is the need to isolate, the desire to kind of pull myself away from everybody. That becomes a much more prevalent thing that I tend to see. And it's taught me that maybe one of the bigger issues that I have as an individual, and this is just a Keegan character problem, is that when it comes to asking for help or when it comes to asking for support, I don't really fully understand what that might sound like because also don't want to give somebody the opportunity to disappoint me. I don't want to give somebody the chance to let me down. And yet, that just means that I never give them an opportunity to also wow me and surprise me in a way that I maybe didn't understand that I needed something. So it gets a little bit chaotic in trying to wrestle with that. But also because of the low energy, because of the quote unquote not being the funnest version of myself, this has also become a time when my head is telling me that, oh, yeah, these people don't want you around because they are more comfortable demanding your energy. They are more comfortable demanding attention that's focused on them, not necessarily when you can't give that, and then you have the attention demand. That type of thing. So it becomes unfamiliar and almost at times uncomfortable, because if I have to ask for something that, according to me, is something that so many other people are giving away freely, it makes me question the validity and the seriousness or the goodness within that thing. And that's not very fair because, like I just said, your character is not connected to what it is that's happening. It's who you are and it's who you're going to be. So be that person. Even if it makes other people uncomfortable, even if it makes you uncomfortable at times, be who it is that you are, because it's kind of something that you should owe yourself, because you're the only person that knows it exists, right? And I think I'm gonna I'm gonna do it in the middle because I know the last. I'm still trying to figure out when to do this reading thing. But with our last episode, the writing prompt that ended off the episode was value added doesn't always look positive. So the excerpt that comes out of that is value added doesn't always look positive. Sometimes it's that harsh course correction. Sometimes it's knowing when to bite your tongue. But most times, if not always, value added is the desire of you to completely prioritize another, and we can tend to get lost in that intoxicating sensation. But remember, you shouldn't do it to receive, but you are not terrible for wanting in return. Learn to discern the why, and you will understand so much more than you realize. I think I've I've gotten, and I'm going to call it a luxury. I think having an ability to be sick, having an ability to be low is something that very many people don't always have the luxury of enjoying and indulging in the way that I have had it afforded to me. So I think I've learned that in times when something isn't necessarily how it is that I want it to be, that currently, as of late, with the lessons that I've been learning over the course of the last couple of months, it's not terrible to slow down. It's not bad manners for you to take the time for yourself. I think. I think it's not bad manners. However, I do know that it's not always possible. However, I do understand that people won't always permit it. Hell, there might not even be time or space for it in your current frame and manner in which you are living life. Sure, that's also a thing. But I will say that if I didn't do things the way that I'd done them, I would have a lot less value for myself in terms of my own character. I would feel like I wasn't on my side. I would feel like I'd left myself, I'd neglected myself. And that's not something that or it's something I'm learning I'm not very comfortable doing anymore. There's a lot of there's a lot of me understanding other people's priority, but not a lot of me understanding my own. And that's got less to do with other people and more to do with myself, because of the fact that I'm trying to hold myself to a higher standard, to a different standard, maybe not even higher. Higher is the incorrect word. But it also becomes a lot because you can't necessarily ask. And if you can't ask, then what do you do with the desire? What do you do with the request that you have? It becomes problematic in and of itself. So I'm trying to think of of, of things to understand myself better. The writing is helping, sure, every now and then. The questions and the inquiry, even the being sick, that's helping, and that's been important. But I also wonder, what will I do when I'm not sick? What will I do when I stop writing? Because there was a point where I wasn't. So what was I doing to deal with everything that was going on in my head? How did I navigate social spaces before I was bothered by them? How did I understand them before I understand them now? There's a bunch of questions that have popped up and they don't really give me many answers. But moving forward, I think it's more about being able to speak about that. And I think that's going to be where the focus is going to shift towards. So if the goal is to try and do new things while becoming a better, more you version of yourself, how is it that you would know that you were doing it if you've never been the person that you are? What would your metric be? What would the rubric look like? Would you know that you were achieving something that you've always achieved in a different way? Would you know whether or not you're becoming more efficient, not necessarily better at a particular skill? Muscle memory and all that. But what if your habits are in the negative? What if the places you feel most comfortable are wrong? What if the conversations you are most willing to have are the bad kind? Struggle Olympic stuff. People that get stuck in complaint. I heard a thing. Oh, what's his name? Oh, this guy's all over social media with the stuff that he's saying. He spoke about when you engage in any kind of conversation, you need to ask yourself, are you complementing the bond or are you complicating the bond? Are you making it easier for there to be a connection with you, or are you making it more difficult for this person to connect with you? And I think it's a mighty big thing to be able to ask yourself. To be able to look at yourself and recognize that you are giving someone effort because of the fact that you want something is probably 10 types of emotional intelligence that most people don't have. To understand that the justifications that you have in your head are because of the fact that you desire something from someone, it's important. It's not fighting with someone because of the fact that you want more time. It's telling the person, hey, I'd like to spend some time with you. This is what I'd like to do. It seems simple enough. I've said the exact same thing. And I'm sure the person that has the fight feels justified in having the fight because they feel unheard and da 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 da. I get it. But you need to understand there are people that get stuff from you that they've never asked of you. And there are people that you will never give stuff to purely because of the fact that they've asked it of you. What type of insanity is that? Because someone, you have an assumption that someone is going to be ungrateful for something, you give them something. And yet, because of the fact that there is someone that will be grateful for receiving something, you do not give it to them. You withhold. It's confusing. And it's not meant to be. I don't think it should be. I don't think the purpose of the decision making is to make it confusing. But I also think a lot of people don't dive. Not that deep, at least. They leave the sand alone, they don't dig. Okay, so over the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks, there's gonna potentially be the first time I'm taking a break. I'm only telling you guys because of the fact that I have learned that some people get upset at me if I don't post a video, which is probably one of the nicest compliments that I can experience, considering all of the self doubt chat and all of that we've had in the other episodes. But if you are here, I do want to say thank you for the second time, but also go back to the old stuff, please. Like, watch the stuff that started all of this and share your thoughts. Tell me you don't like it. Tell me you're not a fan. Tell me the stuff that you are glad that I changed. Let's let's just do that. That's what I'm asking for the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'm hoping it's only the next 2 to 3 3 weeks. It might be a little bit longer, but bear with me. It's an unforeseen thing. It's not something that I expected to happen. Okay. Um, yeah, I'm not going to give more information than that. That's perfectly fine. But yes, there's that. Then we are at the point where we do that thing where we tell people what to do, right? So like, follow, subscribe, share, those types of things. This is the moment where we do that. And as always, just before we close off an episode with a writing prompt, we are going to do our music recommendations. Right, this week on our music recs, we are going to be starting with. Okay, for our music recs, we are first going to start with a track out of this album or the Yugo album of Loyal Corner, which is A Lasting Place. Just the music matched my thinking. So these two first songs are very different energy to the back three. Don't mind it. It's just a thing that happens. So after Lasting Place, we're then gonna have Chamomile by Kofi Stone and Adi Suleiman. Then our third recommendation is Baby by Gabriel Jacobi. And then we have Cold Showers by Tia Gordon. I'm pretty sure that's a second recommendation by Tia Gordon. And then we have DFR by Ballamore, which is Don't Feel Right. Just three little innocent dark songs that are just snuck in there, okay? Don't mind it. We are not gonna do an anime rec this week. I don't know if you guys are watching the other anime recommendations that I'm giving you because no one's telling me about them. I need to know if you guys are fans of the anime recs. 10 out of 10, 2 out of 10, how are you feeling based on what it is that you'll have seen? No? Let me know. And then you know where we are at the close of an episode. We then do our little prompt. So for this week's prompt, we are going with right. Once I used to enjoy. That's terrible English. Once I used to enjoy. Do with it what you will. Okay? It's simple enough. And you can take it and make it dark because that's probably what I'm about to do. But teach yourself something. Give yourself a little bit of credit. As always, stay curious, stay kind, stay connected. Keegan out.